Hi, and welcome to The Matrix Resurrections Spoilercast and Review. I'm your host, Dan Video Games, and we have the usual crew with us. We've got Bob.
Did you make a choice?
From GigaBoots. We've got KZ.
I'm dropping my pills everywhere.
From KZExcellent.com. And we've got Mr. Feel from Mr. Feel's Wild Ride.
My name is May. Matrix.
Before we get started, Mr. Dan Video Games, what is The Matrix Resurrections? The Matrix Resurrections is an allegory for making a fourth Matrix film with our star Keanu Reeves completely disinterested in it, despite literally Warner Brothers in the film forcing him to, with the threat of breaking his contract and doing it without him. In it, you watch scenes from the first film intercut with uninspired retreadings of the exact same material with either older versions of the actors from the original or terrible replacements who can't hold a candle to the performance of the original actors. So, Mr. Feel, what did you think of The Matrix Resurrection?
With the sound.
This movie, and this is the most charitable read I can give of it. This feels like Lana Wachowski was like, I'm going to make something like The Force Awakens, like as like a joke, as like that will be part of like the meta bullshit. Is that like, oh, it's like The Force Awakens, but then didn't deviate from it at all.
Yeah.
So you just get The Matrix Force Awakens.
And as per usual in our Spoilercast reviews, we need a mouth sound that summarizes your feeling. We now move on to Bob Video Games. Bob?
I will also give my most charitable read of it. This whole thing was made so they made something so bad that they'll never make another Matrix product again. Like, that's the only reason they made it. They were like, well, Warner Brothers is going to make me. So I will give them the biggest stinker I can, and then they'll never ask me for anything again.
Crafty.
So I'm going to give it a...
Handing them a stinker. That makes sense. Bugs is in this. KZ?
I think I might deviate a little bit. I think that this was a fairly solid film. I feel like coming back years later to make a sequel in a franchise can be tough, but they got some of the old actors back, including Keanu, and I think they nailed... Oh, wait, I'm thinking of the new Bill and Ted. This was bad. This wasn't good at all. It was... The things they were doing were funny for the first 20 minutes, and then I started experiencing ego death for the rest of this entire film. I'm giving this an... Oh, no.
And then I'll do my summary and sound. You know that moment in every reboot film made over the last decade where they need to do a joke about the original is better, so why would you revisit it? This is the 2 hour and 20-minute version of that joke.
Yeah.
Hoo boy! And that's my sound.
You know, Dan, they usually, when other films do this, they don't show you the clips of the old movie over and over again, especially with bad color grading on these old versions of those films.
It is really weird. They're not using the 4K HDR version, so it's still the hyper green, hyper blue.
What is the thing, like the number one rule when doing something like this is don't directly remind people of the better thing.
Yeah.
Instead, it's every second. We'll literally play footage of the old thing, and the characters will quote it while laughing. I know.
Dan, us watching The Matrix 1 moments before watching this was a bad idea.
No, that was the best idea.
It wasn't even intentional. We just ended up watching the second one and then went, well, I guess we'll watch the third. And then right before this, we were like, well, we have time to watch the first.
I was like, yeah, they're going to just remake the first one with this, so we have to. Jokingly. I didn't know it'd be this direct.
And since they're using the worst looking tint on it, it's like I'm watching clips of a worse version of the first film. So it's even more cursed.
It's a really impressive experience. I after I watched this, completely flabbergasted at the state it was in. I sort of looked around to see what other people thought. And of course, since I watched it the second it came out, all I got were official outlet reviews.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was I can't remember his name, Roger Moore, I think, film reviewers, just like, this movie seems to be half you remember the good times and half fuck you for remembering the good times.
Oh yeah, that's like
Yeah, it's weird.
when the character who I didn't learn until I read reviews was supposed to be the fucking guy from Reloaded, like the crime boss.
Oh, the Merovingian.
Oh yeah,
The Merovingian.
the Merv.
Yeah, I didn't realize that the rambling homeless guy was supposed to be him.
Yeah, well, he speaks French. That's how you know.
Yeah, that's the only clue you get.
Like, there were a lot of little moments in this movie where I'm like, okay, this might be picking up and like salvaging something, and every time immediately it like has its throat cut by someone leaning into frame and either just saying a quote from one of the first movies, one of the original trilogy, or like him, where it's like, movies used to be better.
Yeah, no, I think he
And it's
might
like,
be.
yes, in the scope of this franchise, correct.
Neo, you made Wikipedia.
Yeah, he might be the single worst scene in this movie.
Probably.
They even introduced him in a super weird way of like, yeah, you remember him and his friends, and it's like, well, I remember him. These guys all seem new. What are they?
They seem like Mongolians?
Yeah,
Yes.
they're literally nothing like the werewolves and ghosts he hung out with. So I don't know.
I honestly sat there thinking, are these guys from the MMO?
That's a fair fucking question, honestly.
Neo wouldn't even have met them if they were.
Right? Yeah,
See-
it was dire.
Going into this, I was like, this might be bad, but at least it'll probably be a well-shot, slick action movie. Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
Instead, it has the cinematography of Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah, like I immediately lost all hope in like the very first train fight scene,
Yeah.
where it's like, oh, you really just don't have anything going on, huh?
Yeah, the very first scene that there's a fight where they like do the running away from agents shooting them. It's like, whoa, you didn't have anybody for this, did you?
You mean the scene where they ran 15 feet down the hall? Tiny hallway with 4 agents firing at them. Stop, crouch, and shoot back. And it's like, that would have gotten you killed.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do a flip.
Yeah,
No,
I liked
that
the
scene,
part
they just
where,
planted themselves down and were like, if you shoot me, whatever, I guess.
I like the part where she where the fucking, I didn't commit her name to memory because she doesn't matter.
Bugs Bunny?
Blue hair.
Yeah, Bugs.
Yeah,
As in
Bugs.
Bugs Bunny. As
in
in
Bugs.
White Rabbit Tattoo.
Yeah, she said, "What's up, Doc?" at one point.
Did she really?
Yeah, whenever they're like healing up Neo, I think she goes, "What's up, Doc?"
Oh, that's true. She does say that during that scene.
Imagine getting freed from the Matrix and picking Bugs as your name. Picking a fucking brand from inside the simulation. What a fucking loser. Anyway, as I was saying, she like Frankensteiners the agent off the building, and they land on like a lower level of the building,
Yes.
of the roof.
Yeah.
And then the other agent just like watches them crawl to their feet instead of just shooting her 100 times instantly. When it comes to the action, I was like, is this like beat meta in the sense that this is the streaming version of a Matrix movie that has to look bad and have terrible action?
Yeah,
Like it's worse than a Freddie Wong video.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
every
no.
single part. It's kind of crazy.
Way worse. They should have gotten Freddie Wong as their action director. That would have gone pretty well.
Yeah, it would come better than this.
Yeah. Yeah. My bar, just so people know, my bar coming into this film is I was hoping it was better than Revolutions, which has like 30 minutes of burnable waste in the middle of the film. And somehow this didn't even get fucking close.
Right? It somehow managed to be the absolute worst Matrix thing ever. We just played Path of Neo this week.
Yeah. There's an insane amount of burnable waste in here, and entire characters that are set up to be important fall out of the movie for like 70% of it.
Yeah.
I mean, this movie feels so transient and nothing. It's like, it has no reason to really exist, doesn't try to present one, and just kind of sits around for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, my original intention was to watch this film twice before we recorded this, but so little was happening, and all of the lore stuff they were setting up wasn't complicated in the least, and everything's super straightforward. That I just about 40 minutes in, I'm like, I don't need to see this twice. This is incredibly easy to keep track of. There aren't philosophical ideas being exchanged here that are meaningful.
There really aren't any at all. Like, I was expecting characters to constantly be staring at the camera and saying philosophy. That would have been better.
I agree with that, as sick as that is.
Right, as we were saying, Reloaded and Revolutions are way better.
Oh, yeah, vastly. It's kind of insane.
The only time I felt like I needed to pay attention is when Neil Patrick Harris talks for 6 straight minutes trying to explain what it is they're doing at all.
That was the only time Neurons was firing. And if there had been more of that and this was a well-shot, well-presented action movie...
that didn't do that weird motion blur shit.
I would be much more positive on this, but like I can't even really muster ire. It's so nothing.
Yeah, I'm not coming out of this furious. I'm coming out of this just disappointed. Like it's shocking how bad this is, but that's about it. That's about as far as it goes. As I said, I'm not going to be thinking. I said this off content. I'm not going to be thinking about this movie for a great time to come because there isn't a whole lot to think about. The things for me that would really improve this movie, I think the whole thing really went off a cliff about 22 minutes in. You know, when you basically get to the other side of what's happening here. Even though I do find we're going to transparently have a conversation about rebooting the Matrix in this Matrix pseudo reboot.
There's so much of that in like the first 30 minutes. I was rolling my eyes so hard.
It was all so hackish, it hurt.
How did we get this again? We get that scene in Space Jam 2 where they try to get LeBron James to be in every Warner Brothers property. Yeah. And then we get the Matrix equivalent of that.
Yeah.
With the Matrix was a trilogy of video games made in 1999. And they even got Jeff Keighley's Game Award trophy into this movie.
I mean, it seems...
Oh, I didn't notice that. That's funny.
It seems to me that you literally need to have the line about how this is a reboot to get a script for a reboot greenlit in Hollywood. And this was just scene after scene of that. It's so weird.
That focus group thing was like being physically beaten.
Yes.
When they try to tell you what the Matrix is all about.
Yeah, it's not about senseless gun violence. It's about being brainy, philosophical, mind-bending.
I was Keanu taking drugs and being in a bathtub.
That scene, I feel a little bad for saying it, but I'm like, yeah, this is just the Wachowskis trying to figure out what the Matrix script was after they made that one, had to make sequels.
That was funny.
So I like Neo's therapist just being covered in blue.
Yes.
I like that I still had hope when that happened. I'm like, okay, maybe this might be hacky, but it could still be fun. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of flatlined. Although I'm calling this now, weirdo right-wingers will use this as an excuse of why no man should ever go to therapy.
Oh dear.
You know, I started having the smallest shred of hope that this would be like a really funny film throughout. Mm-hmm. When they're like, here's Trinity in this new simulation. She's married to a guy named Chad.
Yeah, no. Naming him Chad was hilarious.
And I'm like, oh my God, Neo's gonna cuck Chad. How many cuck arcs do we need in Keanu Reeves' movie?
How many cuck arcs do we need in general? Because it feels like there's one in everything.
I know. I was like, add it to the list.
It's only the third in the Matrix.
I know. It really fucking floored Xeon when we had to explain. So Enter the Matrix is about Ghost's cuck arc. We kept making jokes watching this movie. We're like, Ghost is going to jack into the new simulation.
I'm so sad what's his name from Matrix 1 didn't show up.
Cypher?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Cypher would have been great. Yeah. I still think that would have made a better film for this.
Any character that I gave a shit about at all would have been helpful.
No, it's okay. We have Agent Smith here, but he's taken the form of an uncharismatic actor.
Yeah.
I like his performance. I thought it was as best as he could possibly do with what he was given.
I've just felt like he was a guy across the counter from me yelling at me that his coupon didn't work. His energy sucks.
Yeah, we have a good impersonator of Hugo Weaving in the third Matrix movie. You
That's
could
true.
find someone who could act it all.
If
like
it's-
him and Morpheus are just not acting, period.
If they gave it their all in terms of money and got Hugo Weaving in, I'd still kind of like this movie a little bit.
Yeah, that would give this anything.
See, I'm starting to get on board with they made something bad on purpose.
Yeah.
But Bob's interpretation of it is to grenade the franchise.
Right, to salt the earth.
Yes.
My interpretation of it is it's a weird meta thing. We made a bad reboot because most reboots are bad. Isn't that funny? And I'm like, no, because you didn't actually deviate from the bad reboot at all.
Oh, here's the thing. I think you're both right. I think they're trying to do a clever, here's a reboot meta thing, but also this will teach them.
Yeah, I feel like it can be doubled. I'm leaning more toward Bob, where it's like the executives like this WB scene, but boy, was it literal.
I mean, the entire movie is about how these two people coming together is what made the Matrix work, literally.
It's made with one of the directors.
And we only got one Wachowski. And that's been killing me since I watched the film. I'm like, oh, is this really what we're doing?
I tried to dig. I'm like, why didn't you do this besides the fact that this is really terrible? And the most I saw in the lead up was just, yeah, I've been out of film for the past like 5 years. I've got one foot out the door.
Yeah, for me personally, if they could have developed Neil Patrick Harris more, if they threw away Agent Smith entirely, because we have two Agent Smiths in this is worth noting.
Yes.
Because Morpheus is also Agent Smith.
Yeah, they said it was a perfect fusion between
Agent Smith and Morpheus because they completed Neo. And I'm like, what?
The Morpheus thing fucks me up because he exists, be that charismatic character and do that thing. And I'm like, I mean, you're doing all right. But then the first third of the movie ends and he basically does nothing for the rest of the film, which makes the stuff he does in that first third even more like useless. You don't really need him at all.
I was rolling my eyes at so much. Their version of the dojo scene is so fucking bad.
Yeah, I know that was one of the main things where I'm like, okay, the way he's acting in scenes before this, I'm like, I feel like you're at least doing a better job than some of the newer actors in like acting, but the dojo scene's like really unnecessary, and they're like, well, people really like the Matrix 1 and they didn't like 2 and 3, I guess, so we'll have a lot of Matrix 1 stuff in here.
There was just so much fucking bullshit in this movie of them jerking off the Matrix 1 as a clever meta bit, and I'm like, shut the fuck up and be a movie.
No, never.
No, we refuse. We will not be a movie for 2.5 hours.
I will even take characters talking about textbook philosophy because at least that's sort of like a movie.
Because that's substance at all. And that's the thing. This feels ethereal. It doesn't feel like there's anything of substance in it. And that's why it's going to fall away.
That's why Neil Patrick Harris's scene started firing neurons, because at least he's into it and saying anything like I expected to be the point of this movie.
Right, and that's why the moment that starts completely falling away as Neo gets out, and then the next time we see him, it's in the worst scene ever as he goes, bullet time! That's when the movie continued to tumble downhill at an alarming rate for me.
Hey, remember that fucking part where they're like, they made you look different, Neo. Does that matter beyond this scene? No.
Yep.
We just need to explain why there was a time skip and we're this incompetent that we couldn't find you for 60 years.
Yeah, we couldn't find him. We weren't sure where he was, but we dove into the creator of The Matrix in this movie. That is a game, by the way, for anyone who hasn't seen it, who decided to listen this far. We dove into the creator of The Matrix's machine learning modal, so that way we could figure out if Morpheus was in it, and he was, but he was Agent Smith.
Yeah,
and now with the power of him, we can find actual. But once they get out of the Matrix, they say, well, actually, it was our Neo enthusiast who helped us find your pattern. I'm
Yeah,
like, I thought it was Morpheus.
Yeah, they're like he's like really up there in neoology.
Yeah, he's a neoologist.
Yeah, I really like that part where they go and they check out some of the more ancient stuff in the new city, and then they show you the statue of Morpheus with a giant jack-off crystal like pendant.
All the shit outside the Matrix, it just looks so much like the fucking rebel base in Rise of Skywalker. Like the stone, and it looks so fucking similar, and like the crew of machines that they don't go into beyond them showing up and getting names.
Yeah, they get introduced, and it's like that could have been interesting, but nothing happened.
Are like super sequel Star Wars characters, especially near the end where like the operator fist bumps the little mantis CG one.
Yeah, I know. Immediately, people were like porgs when the little Scrimblow looking robot pops up.
Yeah. So that way it doesn't get buried and we don't move past it. I need to talk about Jada Pinkett Smith's delivery, her performance as fake old lady Niobe.
I cannot believe what they did here.
She's moving across the screen. She's just like, hey, how's it going? It's me, old lady Niobe. And I'm like, old people don't move like that. What is going on? Is that literally Jada Pinkett Smith under makeup?
Yes.
Because there's no person you can hire to act old this poorly more than someone who's 30 years younger than they should be.
Why couldn't you just one I don't understand why they had to make this 60 years instead of just 20.
Because they're stupid.
They needed to do literally anything.
Because if they had just been okay, there's Niobe. She's the leader and is older, obviously, because 20 years have passed. I don't see why they had to do this bullshit where now she has to be under tons of makeup.
Yeah, it only enhanced how much she already can't act. Like,
no,
I think that the Niobe stuff almost works because she couldn't act in the old movie either.
It seems consistent.
But it is just to have the extra layer of old person acting. It really hurts.
Well, they did it. Okay, the reason they do the time jump is so that way they can have not Zion, but Zion without the Z and N. Io.
Oh, fuck off!
And then also throw away the entire remaining cast from the prior film to bring in a bunch of people we're not going to develop in the least, like Bleach Hair. What was her name?
Doesn't one of them say that they're
Yeah,
Tank's
Lexi.
daughter?
I think, I think one of them said,
granddaughter?
I think we're failing compared to the combat kids in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
This movie feels so fast, just for pointlessly, by the way. Like, they're not doing things.
Right.
Things are just happening quickly. It's like this movie's 2.5 hours long. It feels like it's like 70 minutes, and not in a good way. It feels like nothing has room to breathe, which is another reason I keep comparing it to The Force Awakens, which also felt manic in that same sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where it's like, we have to set everything up for the new franchise. Nothing can breathe. You don't really get enough information about anything. It even feels the same way in the, like, what is the new status quo
Right.
that
Yeah.
we're going to be dealing with in going forward? It's like, we don't have time to tell you.
It's super weird because this doesn't feel like the start of a new franchise.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Right. Like, I get why that would have to happen in Force Awakens.
In The
but
Force
why
Awakens,
here?
but I legitimately expected, like, this movie to be way more abstract and meta in an actual way, not in a way of having characters talk about the Matrix, which is stupid and meaningless.
I think a lot of that comes from the dialogue often having the chemistry and speed of The Force Awakens, where they're
Yes,
going to
it's very much written like that.
Yeah, they're just going to very quickly stammer and yell and laugh their way through explaining what they're doing.
Yeah, like, tonally, doesn't even really feel like the Matrix sequels. It's it feels like the Force Awakens tier we don't care slop.
It feels like, to me, I don't say this as an insult. You can go and listen to every other Spoilercast or review we've done. I don't use this as an insult ever. This is genuinely how it felt. This feels like a fan film.
I had that thought at the first action scene where it's like, they're talking about the Matrix a lot. Like this is meta in like such a stupid, shallow way.
Yes.
The action and shots are bad. This feels like a fan film.
It does.
I think it's really funny that the operators are now transmitted into the Matrix like it's Quantum Leap. Like they have the hologram of them like Al.
Yeah, that's what Keanu's like, Al, why haven't I left?
And then also another super weird thing this movie does constantly is they're out of frame. They're out of the Matrix now.
Yeah, I was going to say, a while back when Phil was talking about this movie moves too fast for no reason because it's not really doing much. They just go, there are sirens, we need to get out. And then it cuts to them being out. And I'm like, the whole point of the Matrix is the terror of being trapped in, not successfully escaping and them closing in on you. And then later in the movie when they just fly out of frame, I'm like, come on.
Yeah, it loaded the next checkpoint since they went out of the skybox. The pacing of the film where it's just going so quickly and manically, I felt it a lot when they're like, okay, Neo, we need to stop you from doing anything, so we're gonna just like trap you inside this place in Io. And then he immediately gets out in less than 25 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
Where I'm
why'd
just
you
like-
even do this? You set up an arc and didn't do anything.
Like, you needed to... Even you know, an average movie would give him at least 2.5 minutes of nothing happening before that pops up.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Now
you
it
know,
might give us time to develop a character.
you know, so he can reflect on such great lines such as Zion was really a matrix of its own.
You know what else makes
Because
that sound?
they didn't
War.
grow fruit.
So maybe I'm just stupid and missed it. Do they ever, at any point in this, are like, we need you, Neo, because of X?
He's powering the new version of the Matrix because of how close he is to Trinity, but not together, which is the stupidest part of this film. I cannot deal with that.
I think
It
that's
is-
a weird thing too, because it's like, we know why the machines need him. We don't have any reason the humans do.
Oh yeah, no, there's no reason the humans do, and
They
they
like
gave
the
up on.
Matrix.
Well, they also gave up on freeing minds.
Yeah.
Like Io doesn't give a shit about doing that, and then they keep saying this thing of like, well, you know, people don't want to leave the new Matrix. It's so good. It's like what? And then the conclusion of the movie being, well, you know, now Neo and Trinity are going to paint the sky in this horrible fascist mind prison. So this is a happy ending. And I'm like, wait, no, that's not.
They did it. They learned all their lessons, like consent is important.
Man, there's so much going on there that's okay. There's nothing really going on here. It's just insane that they're like, yeah, after the end of the revolution, Neil Patrick Harris took over and made the worst thing possible, and we all love it.
Yeah, I disagree, Bob. There is a lot happening. There's a lot of things hitting you right now.
See, the thing is, I really think that Neil Patrick Harris's character could have been a really cool villain for a Matrix movie because he's like the opposite of Agent Smith. He's like, no, I get humans.
Right. Yeah, that could be interesting.
But and then you could have the angle of like, no, he's also wrong, but in an entirely different way from Agent Smith. But instead, they're just like, they don't do shit.
Yeah.
They have it's. Can we talk about the end of this movie? Because you already sort of did with the paint the sky.
Yeah.
This is part of where I'm leaning towards Bob's take of like it's deliberately trying to sink it, where it's like Trinity is now the sociopathic girl boss.
Yes.
And is going to literally kick Neil Patrick Harris's jaw off and then cut his throat.
And then snap her finger to bring it back together to do it again.
Isn't it so cool, boys? Now the girl can fly. And I'm like, this doesn't feel important. That's like the most Force Awakens part of it to me. Like the most pathetic corporate nothingness of it. Where it's like, now Trinity can fly and it looks really bad.
Yeah, the now Trinity can fly and it looks really bad was incredibly dumb to me because it implies she needed to fly to be cool.
Right.
Which anyone with a fucking brain can tell you Trinity's fucking badass. Like, she doesn't need to be the one to be really cool and amazing.
I think it's really cool that the marketing said, make sure not to spoil our exciting ending for this.
Yeah, you're fucking terrible dog shit. It always felt like that if this sort of thing was going to happen, it would be everybody flying. Like, now everybody is free so that everybody can fly now. Because the whole point was like, Neo learns to fly because that's the thing that can break everybody's brain, seeing somebody fly.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, and like, I feel like a good ending to that, if they were going to do this sort of thing, would have been everybody flying, assuming there were characters anybody gave a shit about.
But that's the problem. A lot of this movie feels like it's one coffee place and one office space, and that's it.
Yeah, this movie doesn't feel like it takes place in a world, and it doesn't really have any humanity.
No. It's somehow the least fleshed out Matrix product. Yeah. Like, I don't think The Matrix is a perfect film, but it's a really great film. And I certainly don't think the second or third Matrix film is anywhere near perfect. But man, this is an
At least they have
impressively bad
scenes
showing.
Are good. At least they work as action movies most of the time.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, at the end of the day, if the action in this was better, that would have helped immensely.
If there was anything to distract you from how bad it was, yeah. But instead, everything is this deluge. Like, they can't do shootouts at all. They can't do fighting at all.
At all. That fight between Smith and Neo is so bad.
Yeah.
I started laughing when Neo did like his Three Stooges whoop 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 move on the wall to kick Agent Smith in the head.
Three Stooges, whoop, whoop, whoop.
Yeah, and then at some point they just give up and like Neo just keeps using energy push now. Like that's all he can do.
Like it's the end of a Dragon Ball movie, so he finally starts using things.
There's this part where New Smith hits Neil Patrick Harris, and Neil Patrick Harris like flies back and then gets caught in slow motion.
Mm-hmm.
That looks so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like it legitimately looks like something you would see in like the Flash CW show.
I mean, every time
it's like on the levels of Power Rangers.
Whenever Neil Patrick Harris activates his stand and makes everything operate at a low shutter speed, it looks terrible.
Yeah, because one, it's not even consistent shot to shot.
They give up by the end of the movie.
They give up every other shot. It's just whether or not it was easy to do, because it's based on like how hard would it be to rotoscope Neil Patrick Harris behind Trinity's face right now at this lower shutter speed. And the fact that it's so inconsistent and it doesn't look great to begin with, and it activates earlier in the movie. Mm-hmm. So it's not even an effect they're doing specific to Neil Patrick Harris's stand known as bullet time. It's just a thing they keep doing that looks terrible.
It's not even clever. It's just like there's nothing to it. It's like, you used bullet time to dodge bullets. Now I can somehow use it to trap you. Isn't that ironic? And I'm like, no.
Yeah, I was hoping we'd get one good scene out of that, of him busting out of it and hitting Neil Patrick Harris, and there might be like something cool there, because it would just be JoJo's.
You know, I was hoping for that too. I'm just like, I haven't seen the new Ghostbusters film, Bob. Does the bad guy go, you used green screen back in the day to defeat Dozer?
I feel like this is the worst reboot thing ever made, basically. I feel like there's no way that Ghostbusters movie is worse.
There's no way. Literally. I mean, everything I've heard, it's pretty fucking bad.
Yeah,
but
it's probably super offensive with the way they use characters and everything.
I might find it more ethically repulsive.
Right, 100%.
But as like a viewing experience, it's probably a more functional movie.
The fact that the main solution toward the end of the film was, oh no, we can't stop him because he's doing the bullet time. Agent Smith hasn't been in the movie for 40 minutes. He's going to arrive, do a punch, then leave.
Yeah,
then
Agent
leave
Smith
and never come back.
Yeah, it's like, what was that even about? He's like, our temporary alliance is over. I'm leaving forever now, I guess. I thought they were going to start fighting then. I thought it would then be about him versus Smith. But no, it's just I'm done.
No, we have a much superior set piece that just devolves into people falling out of windows and not doing anything, which was hilarious.
It starts like acting like a zombie movie. It's really bad.
Oh, 100%. But real quick, I want to say only a sociopath writes the line for the newsmith to say he's even more perfect than Hugo Weaving. Only a sociopath would unleash that sentence out of that man's mouth. Do you just hate this actor? Why would you have them say that?
Yeah, this is another reason why I didn't like that we watched the first Matrix movie before this, because I got to, watch Hugo Weaving act and go, oh.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because, like, rewatching all those Matrix movies, Hugo Weaving's acting throughout them is the best thing in those.
Yeah,
it convinced me the beginning of Revolutions was actually good because we had a few scenes of him.
I mean, we have
just
him
going.
And the Train Man.
Yeah.
The Train Man shit is real cool. And I thought for 1 second the Merv in this was the Train Man because he looked homeless. And I'm like, why'd they recast the Train Man? And then he starts speaking French, and I'm like, fuck you, this is stupid.
Bob, you tweeted that you think Hugo Weaving may be more important than Keanu Reeves in The Matrix. You're correct.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is they don't let Keanu act.
Yeah, there are 2 moments where they let him act, and both times are the one time that he does a joke that everyone in the room laughs. Because otherwise he's incredibly contained or doing nothing or just kind of looking sad.
Yeah.
I think when you're going to do something like what they did with Agent Smith, the absolute minimum you have to do is somehow bridge the 2 versions in any way.
What if we just showed pictures of the old one on screen? Will that be enough?
They don't have any mannerisms that are the same. They don't act the same.
No, and
their motivation seem like it's like, well, he connected us. Like, okay, Smith wants to kill the analyst for using him. That's fine. That's a very Smith motivation. You need something. Why his relationship with Neo is just nothing. It's like, yeah, I'm here and I guess we'll fight because I guess it's like, didn't you used to be like a nihilist who believed nothing could change and had depression, and that kind of was the motivation and self-loathing, and that was kind of the motivation for everything. Like I would have no, I'm a whole different character now.
When they did the second and third Matrix films, they trained those actors and performers to move and deliver lines like Hugo Weaving. They actually did a competition to hire the guy who plays, the Bane, the person he escapes into in the real world. I think doing that level of training would have really helped. Because when it gets to the scene where he yells Mr. Anderson, I'm just getting Dennis the Menace as an adult vibes.
Yeah, it's real bad.
Dude's basically screaming Mr. Wilson. I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah, Jonathan Groff is the new guy's name. And he's like, I specifically didn't want to do a Hugo Weaving impression. And I'm like, did Lana Wachowski tell you this? Is she syncing this movie deliberately? You can tell me. It's okay.
It's okay. Just blink twice.
Oh, man. Yeah, I need to see any of these actors in anything else.
I didn't want to do a direct impersonation. Also, I didn't even want to act. I wanted to have no ham.
It's fine, Dan. I'm sure he's very great in iZombie.
The Ubisoft game?
No, that's Zombie U.
No, that's Zombie U. iZombie is a CW
yes
zombie show. And I'm like, should we really? And he's not even a main character. So I'm like, are you really like going to the same pool as Square Enix voice actors for Agent Smith in the new Matrix movie?
Are all of these new people from the CW? Because they feel like it. Like the whole new crew that allegedly exists. I don't know. They all had names. And Morpheus and him.
I wonder how the CW actor pool ended up in this Warner Brothers movie. I bet they searched far and wide for the best talent possible.
They wouldn't have any connection there.
He's also Kristoff in Frozen.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Is that like the main romantic interest that's evil?
That is
Well,
that's
no,
the
Haas.
good one
He's-
with the moose.
He's the legit romantic interest who's cool. But
Yeah, he's the one that has the moose.
I liked him in that.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, there you go. Thank you. You saved him in my eyes.
You had to give him. He had to give him the rope of life.
Oh look, the actress for Bugs was in The Force Awakens.
I'm sorry, but all this film did was make me like The Force Awakens more because it was, not trying to hurt me.
Just to be clear, The Force Awakens is a much better film than this.
Yeah.
It's shot by people who seem to know how to point a camera.
Right. It feels like a movie, whereas this feels like a YouTube video gone awry.
I know the characteristics and the general vibe of new characters, whereas here I know nothing at all.
Yeah, like nobody in this entire podcast can give me a single character trait of Sequence
God, don't talk about Sequence.
or Lexi.
No. The most I was able to tell you is that their new Morpheus, I don't know, he seems like he's acting somewhat decently. He's got some, charisma going into it that I would expect from this character type. That's it.
It's really there's no somber tones to him, so he really doesn't hit Morpheus at all, but viewed in a vacuum, divested of that completely. He's okay, except for the fact his character's the lightning rod for the terrible MacGuffin that is floating magnetic iron particles make the data real.
Yes.
I'm not the biggest fan of that because before this, I feel like everything that happens outside of the Matrix is pretty grounded. It's sci-fi, but you feel like most of it could happen. The most amazing thing that happens outside of the Matrix in the first three is Keanu blowing up the Sentinels using his mind powers. But he's the one, so he gets that, right?
Right.
Now it's, in 60 years, we've developed the ability to have people made of floating iron.
That didn't bug me so much at first because I was like, well, they're as long as it's under that projector, he can
Right.
project himself there.
And that
But
would be
later,
fine. I would even stretch my imagination to be like the ship.
yeah,
Like
anywhere
this
in
room.
the ship.
Yeah.
Instead, he starts going everywhere, and it's really weird.
And he's able to infiltrate the site that has the fucking reincarnation pods that Neo and Trinity are in, and can start messing with things.
My dad was really upset when he made this horrible torture device to bring you back to life and make you do what they wanted.
Okay.
He's sorry. He didn't mean to.
That scene you're talking about when Sati talks about her dad making the reincarnation pod.
Yeah.
Did you get a Metal Gear Solid 4 vibe? Of this is a character that would in no world have done this.
Yes.
But you've written it now to connect the dot to make somebody feel like they're smart.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. It does. I didn't get that vibe at that moment because I just sat there and stared at it and I'm like, this is unreal. You're writing all of this for these characters. But you're right. It does kind of tap into that MGS4. Yeah, and then that person actually did this, which caused that, and they're a war criminal. And I'm like,
yeah, paramedic, the person for on-field medical, also went on to develop all nanomachines or something insane.
yes, she invented vamp. It's like, wait, what? Excuse me? What's happening? Calm down.
The sci-fi things that some of the things they were doing in IO, I was like, okay, he's like a weird pin man. They can just kind of float around and whatever. I'm sure other films and media have done it. But when they're flying the ship and Keanu Reeves like, that's a solid wall, how are you going to do that? I'm like, oh my God, did the filmmakers just watch Black Panther and they're just going to do that thing? Because that's exactly what they do to hide Wakanda in that movie, is go through a solid hologram object with your spaceship.
Oh, yeah, no, that's ancient.
Yeah, that's in everything.
Countless things have done that.
Yeah, I know.
I thought it was weird when Keanu reacted the way he did. When Thomas Anderson reacted the way he did to the wall, where he's like, guys, we're going to crash into that wall.
We're at such a level of this specific movie where I'm like, are they just going to look at every blockbuster that's recent and do things in it?
We're now on the 8th generation of Save the Dog, where we photocopied the cover of this book so many times you can't even read it anymore. It says "Say the Do."
It says "Mook."
I love that. Matrix wikis are updating right now to be like, this person portrayed Sati in the new film. Here's a picture. We haven't written in what they do.
They talk for 6 minutes and Casey begins to fall asleep.
Instead of the pin art min for the robot or for the AIs, it should have just been R2 units.
I really do hate the porgs. Like, real quick. This movie's porgs, here's why I hate them. They were pointless.
They were pointless.
I like the little robot when it did a fist bump.
I wish this movie developed that. That could have been neat.
In this case, in Bob's sentence, that could be anything.
Yes.
Okay, the aspect of this plot where they said, no, here's the thing that you did, Neo, because they're like, I feel like I accomplished nothing because this plot seems really terrible. And they're like, you don't understand. While things are still bad, machines are literally allied with us now.
And there was the machine war, which we touch on for one scene.
Yeah, it's really funny where they're like, they have actual machine like helpers like Saibebe and Kujaku.
Yeah, Saibebe that's a terrible name.
It is.
Don't do
I was kind
that.
of shocked. I was kind of shocked that happened. I like the Kujaku one that was more like bird-like.
It was so not Matrix looking.
Oh, yeah,
it really
not at all.
unsettled me. It's just like,
dude,
if the new stuff looked like this, I could be forgiving. Now it just is like this weird Star Wars prequel thing has shown up in your Matrix film.
No, it's more like Avatar.
Yes.
Like James Cameron's Avatar. It just, this bird had this weird energy of that. And I'm like, you don't, basically everything new outside of the Matrix that they do doesn't feel like it matches up with anything before at all.
Yeah, they had this Sentinel like robot thing that then the first Matrix, goes up to Neo after he breaks out of the pod. And we just saw that. So I got to see this version that was way more organic.
It was smooth.
Yeah, it was like shaved and I hated it.
It was weird that they still did that where it unhooks him, and yet the whole idea is that they need him for the whole system to work.
Right.
I was glad they didn't flush him, but
yeah, and but here's the thing, Bob.
Yeah.
The thing you learn is they could have, because they have specifically, I think they called it the Mauler, but they have gears and blades and shit that chops them up if they go down the tube. If you remember the Sati sequence, they show how they had to disengage that.
Oh, yeah, they showed
Then
the
they
CG.
didn't flush her anyways?
Yeah, no, they didn't. They cut before they could even do anything like that.
Oh my God.
But the whole plan doesn't involve flushing her, seemingly. But maybe it did, and it happened off screen. But they had to disengage these blades and shit. And so while I was having a stroke over the first time, like you were saying, the bot that disengages the things that are supposed to be corpses, right? Because that's why it does that. There's supposed to be dead bodies in these pods that this thing is disengaging and then flushing. They had to go to this sector, which makes no sense. This isn't anywhere near the other shit.
This is a sector just for these resurrection pods that apparently keep the whole Matrix running.
Yes.
Somehow.
So this is such a CinemaSins-esque bullshit thing, but it did bother me, so I have to say it. How come Neo didn't have to undergo like days of muscle surgery in this movie?
I made the joke of, why do my muscles not work? And they're like, you're 57.
Because in the original, like, there's that whole scene where he has all the needles in him.
Yes.
Right.
Because they're like, they're stimulating his muscles so he will be able to move because he has never used his muscles. In this one, there's like,
Again, the first one written by someone.
Well, you see, it's different here. A machine made this body, so they made everything work fine, even when in the goo.
A machine made the script.
Yeah, they did. They absolutely did.
I mean,
no,
a
machine wouldn't have been this insulting.
Okay, maybe a machine could make a crowd.
I don't know. I feel like a machine's a lot like a cat, right? It'll bring you some dead thing and it'll go, yes.
And then the cat will walk up and the bell will ring.
I honestly didn't mind that at all. Here's
my cat named Deja Vu.
Yeah, no, I didn't mind that at all. I like Neil Patrick Harris and his cat. I wish this movie was more about that. I wish it didn't involve Smith Morpheus, or any layer of the things that don't matter.
Dan Smithius, please.
Yeah, Smithius.
Smithius?
I love the part where they're like, here's how we get Trinity out. We unplug her after she consents, and then we plug in Bugs, and then they do that weird fucking multi-face shit.
Yeah,
I was
that
hoping
was so dumb.
I was hoping there was a reason for her brain being similar enough to substitute for Trinity's.
No, she's
because
a woman.
she says the line, "Oh, of course."
Yeah,
and
they're
I'm like, that must be because she knows some knowledge and not because you think your writing is funny. And then it ended up being that.
Oh,
and
I read that as of course I have to fucking do this.
Yeah, of course. This is how I'm involved. Ah, geez, how zany.
It was. I'm like, how is Bugs close to Neo? Because that's
Right?
what they say is like, oh, if we had Neo, we could do this.
She watched Neo try to commit suicide once, and it woke her up from the dream.
Fuck this movie.
Yeah, no. And here's the thing: none of this would matter if the movie was good. Like you can poke holes in other Matrix films just fine.
Even if it just looked good and had good action, I would give it so much more rope.
Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for
Like
sure.
it would have any reason to exist beyond none.
Yeah, I mean they could even bring up interesting ideas and that would help. But they don't do any of these things. They have a movie that looks bad, has a terrible driving plot for a script. And then on top of that, it has no philosophical ideas worth a shit.
And one of the most stressful action moments at the end of the film is there's two helicopters. Neo's just going to hold bullets for 40 seconds straight.
That final sequence reminds me more of Path of Neo than any actual Matrix film. Where it's just like, yeah, we extended the scene to being 3 times as long as it should be. The action looks hilariously bad.
Like, why are we going on top of this building? I don't know, because they had to stretch this section. You're going to go down the building, too.
Yeah, it's like when you could do the mission where it's out on the rooftop where Neo first does the cool Matrix dodge.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Yes.
It's that exact station, but from Path of Neo instead.
Yeah, and Path of Neo, where he makes you do the dodge, then fight 80 dudes. Then the dude makes you do the Matrix dodge in cutscene form.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
That is not what I should be thinking of.
No, the filler for a video game isn't what you should be thinking of while watching a movie that's only 2 hours and like 14 minutes.
The only bouts of joy I got were that I can remember, because boy, is it starting to fade, is that one scene in which Neo starts getting drunk off vodka and goes, yeah, I could kill myself right now, and then tries. I was like, that's pretty good delivery from him.
Yeah, again, one of the few scenes where they just let Keanu act.
Yeah, that and them going, you can fly, right? And then he does the thing on the ground that pulsates, and he goes, no.
Yeah, that was one of those moments where I kind of laughed. He's like, yeah, that's not happening. I laughed, but then I was immediately pissed.
Yeah, it was like, that's kind of funny, but why?
Yeah.
This is just stupid.
As I said, it would be like if they had an abrupt segment where Keanu had like erectile dysfunction. I would probably laugh at the outlandishness of it.
Yeah, he has a narrow urethra. Please be nice.
It's yet another very like Force Awakens tone scene.
Oh, that is absolutely.
They're like, we need to split the powers up between these two people to empower Trinity a little bit. We couldn't just let them both be able to do that. That would be.
It's just the whole Trinity Neo thing is one terrible when no other actors came back for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And two is like you trying to trick me into thinking you're about something and you're not.
It just feels like really worse when we back out of the movie on HBO Max and have most of the descriptions just about Keanu Reeves and Carrie Ann Moss are back. They're Trinity and Neo. And I'm like, that's the whole movie, huh? They had to have done this on purpose. This has to have been an op.
Also worth noting, the music really doesn't bring it.
Oh,
It tries once. It just tries to put as much sound as possible during the Smith-Neo fight.
Yeah, it was just as loud as humanly possible, which is whatever. But like, it doesn't even sound like a soundtrack for a Matrix film. Kind of floors me in that way.
Yeah, it does that one stinger that the Matrix has. Like that one, wow.
It never feels like every Matrix has a club scene where they'll play licensed music that's actually like really well picked. Nothing like that.
No. Bob,
what's up?
the fucking credits music.
Yeah, I was about to get to that.
Yeah, I was about to say that's the most important part of the whole film.
The credits music where they have a cover band for Rage Against the Machine that sounds like MCP pants from Aqua Teen.
Shut the fuck! God damn it! He said that, and I was dying because before we watched the film, Bob goes, "I might have to institute the rule that this." If they don't have Rage Against the Machine during the credits, this gets a 0. And then the monkey's paw curled into something even more fucked up than you could have ever imagined.
But yeah, think of any good Matrix song at all.
Uh-huh.
You'll hear nothing even similar.
Yeah, the freeway scene has amazing music in The Matrix.
Yeah.
There are so many scenes with really good music.
Right?
Like the dojo scene.
Right?
There's so many. There's so many, and not a single song from this has any impact.
And yet they freaking remake these scenes with no good music.
It's rough. It's really rough. I didn't expect this to be an amazing film. As I said, I was just hoping it was better than the third. But oh boy, this is the worst movie I've watched in a while.
Dan, I got more out of Space Jam 2.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
No, I can't go that far.
I don't know what motivated them to make a Matrix sequel and not get back anybody but these two.
I don't understand
it. Their acting was never amazing in those movies. I like Keanu Reeves a lot more in every other movie he does, basically.
Yeah.
But Morpheus and Smith carry those movies so hard.
Yes.
I don't understand why you would make something without either.
As for the Space Jam comparison, I think at the end of watching this, one of the first things I said was, no, we weren't even done. I just, an hour and 40 into this, I look over to Bob and I'm like, hey, at least Space Jam, which was maybe sullied slightly by its sequel, at least that is legitimately 100% a film for children.
I just think about some of the stuff in Space Jam 2 where I'm like, oh, they're gathering the gang, and I'm like, this segment I enjoyed. There's no segment in this movie I enjoyed at all.
Right. I there were segments in Space Jam 2 where I laughed and I didn't immediately get pissed.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, as a fan of this thing, and you've Warner Brothers nightmareified it, because both of these are that.
They definitely are. We're lucky we didn't get cosplayers.
Yeah.
Oh,
Dude,
wait, we
if
did
we got
as the
the
main
Agent
cast,
Smith cosplayers from Space Jam 2 to play Smith, it would have been better.
It would have been funny as shit.
It's a better Agent Smith in Space Jam 2.
I was stunned to find out this movie is rated R. I'm like, for what?
I know. They spend most of the movie avoiding saying the word fuck.
Yeah, they drop
Like,
a few curse words.
This has like the tone and candor of like a PG movie almost.
It really does, yeah.
It's weird because there are only certain characters that say effing, but there's other characters that are like the important ones say fuck. Like Trinity and Neo, they'll say it. Everyone else, no, they won't do it. They're too young. They're not 50 years old.
It's not hip.
Yeah, they say hella.
They're cool and zoomers.
And I assume Niobe gets to say super curse words.
And this is going to land with...
What does that mean, Bob? Did she call Neo a cracker? Like, what happened?
This is going to maybe land with no one, but I feel like Niobe would have been better if she was literally the old woman from China, Illinois.
I hate you. Stop doing that.
If she's going to walk like that, if she's going to walk like she's a puppet, if she's going to move around like she's fucking Yoda, she needs to start sounding like a caricature of an old person and just be like, listen here, Neo.
You see, this is the problem that you did that for me. Because you said that while watching, and I just imagined Agent Smith as Steve's brother for the rest of the movie. And I'm like, this has been better.
Can we talk about the after the credits sequence?
Whoa, I didn't see this. Tell me about
Okay,
it.
well then that's great because you get to be the audience surrogate for the audience who doesn't know this. Bob, go ahead and say what it is.
It's back in the game dev room.
Okay.
They're talking about how the Matrix is old and lame now. what's cool and hip now is cat videos. We need to make the cat tricks. And that's it. Then it cuts to black and we're done.
They give you an expectation that they're maybe going to cut to the cat tricks and
Yes.
they do nothing.
Yeah, I was expecting them to go full White Kids You Know and make a cat cosplaying in Matrix outfit scene. They didn't. They couldn't even do that.
They just went, yeah, we're a focus group. We're going to make that joke one more time right after these credits.
I'm glad there's basically no chance there will be any more.
I'm glad John Wick is there to be an actual Matrix sequel.
I mean, yeah,
Yes,
it's nice to
I
have
haven't
good,
said that, but that's what I was thinking.
it's good to have
Yeah, it's got Morpheus in it.
a good action film, right?
Yeah.
To prove that can still happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like that just doesn't happen in Hollywood anymore. You have to go to Hong Kong movies if you want to get a decent action film.
Yeah, John Wick has older actors in the roles, and it works perfectly, right?
Mm-hmm.
This has older actors in the roles, and it just seems weird. And because they, a lot of the Matrix was all these martial arts things that they can't necessarily do anymore.
Yeah, I think it has a lot more to do with they don't have a choreographer.
Oh
Period.
yeah, no, that's
Because we've seen Keanu still able to do stuff.
Yes.
Yes, he does stuff in fucking John Wick for sure.
Keanu still knows Kung Fu. Most of this movie, he's just using magic.
That line, they put that line in the trailer. I thought was going to be during a moment that's cool at all. I thought they would try and sell that, and they just didn't.
No, they wanted that line.
They intercut that line with two other shots that had nothing to do.
Yeah, I know. That's how badly they wanted the line just for the trailer.
I think part of the a lot of these people, I think, in production wise, I remember hearing came from the streaming show they did since 8.
Oh,
I'm like, are you guys aware that that's not a movie? And those shouldn't be your pulls for a movie.
Even if it was close to movie, like it certainly wasn't Matrix like Matrix level of movie.
I haven't seen Sense8. I've virtually no desire to.
Yeah, this has done a lot to make me not want to watch any of the Wachowski stuff.
Yeah, because there is some Wachowski stuff I've missed.
Right.
Even though they only...
I keep meaning to see Cloud Atlas so I can see the blackface.
Excuse me?
What?
Excuse me?
Oh,
Feel? Come on.
well, there's a thing where I part of the story is characters resurrecting over many times, and sometimes they're different races, so they digitally,
God damn it,
transform them.
Oh, like into a new actor, right? They don't just do a digital face.
I don't know. Feels done a lot to make me want to see Cloud Atlas.
Yes, I need to see this now.
Okay, go get it.
Does it have Justin Trudeau?
Well, that's the fun thing. Justin Trudeau's the main character.
Oh shit, his big break.
He really likes reincarnating, perhaps too much.
Oh, okay.
This is the worst piece of Matrix media.
Okay.
I haven't read the comics, though, and I didn't play the MMO because they shot in the head before I tried.
Yeah, that's fair.
As a movie on its own, it's bad. Like, this isn't a living up to the legacy of the original, so this movie is real mush tier.
Yeah, imagine watching this and not having some of the others. Like, there's even less.
Bob, let me put it this way. I've seen people go through Halo Infinite who have never played another Halo game, so I have a pretty good idea of what that would begin to look like if you only saw this movie and none of the other Matrix movies.
Like, I guess all these movies were bad, huh?
Even that's a little bit more more of a thing that stands on its own because it doesn't constantly play clips from the old thing.
That is true.
Like, that's the part that makes this extra insane.
I don't want to sit here and imply that Halo Infinite is as bad as The Matrix Resurrections. That's not possible. You would have to be a David Cage game, basically, because it can't feel good, right?
No.
Yes.
Because as a movie experience, this doesn't look good, and the plot isn't good, and the music isn't good. So you need to translate that. But yeah, I'm just saying, I know the direction that those people would go through, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's, man, everybody really thought this is cool. It's like, no.
Yeah, it's so funny to be like, Matrix 1 especially is like the epitome of cool for that era. Like it is what cool is for late 90s. There isn't anything in this that's cool. You can't even mistake any of the new outfits for characters as cool.
There's that guy named Chad.
Help, the child broke his arm. You need to leave right now.
No, he's choking on a Lego.
Oh, okay. I defaulted to the last one first.
The 15-year-old kid choked on the Lego, yeah.
I still... It's so great. You know, we did all this commentary. None of us brought up. They go to a coffee shop called Simu Latte. And that's the level the whole film comes in at, I think.
Yeah.
We good to end this, everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. We're going to go around. We're going to ask people to give their closing statements, wrapping up all their feelings on it, and give it a score out of 10. We're going to start with Mr. Feel.
I'm not a big Matrix guy. I watched those movies and mostly liked them. And that was pretty much the beginning and end of my, interaction with the Matrix. This is just real disappointing. Like, there was nothing in it that upset me, and it was mostly just kind of dull and wasn't a good action movie and didn't look good most of the time. And I gave this movie a lot of rope. Like, I was sitting here being like, okay, give me anything. Get weird. I'm fine with weird.
Yeah.
Like I went into this expecting like mostly this movie to take place in the abstract mental dimension. But instead it's just, they just made The Matrix Force Awakens and really shallowly tried to imply it had some deeper meaning. I'm gonna give this a 4 because I'm going to forget it in a week. Because there's nothing to even latch onto. Like, all that will be left is a lingering sense of disappointment.
Yeah. We'll go to KZ next.
Yeah, this was bad. There's not. I struggled, as I said. I cannot find a segment of this film that I actually enjoyed. The choreography wasn't good. The music wasn't great at all. The acting most of the time was rough, and they didn't let Keanu Reeves act most of the time. He feels like really just everything about this was wrong. As I said earlier on this podcast, where I'm like, I vastly would, if given the choice, would pick Space Jam 2 over this. That's how rough this was. So I'll just score it 1 point lower than I scored that on Twitter. So this gets a 1.
Okay. Bob.
Yeah, this is worse than I could have imagined. It really is. It's hard to imagine a worse Matrix product.
Yeah, I can't.
And then other than that, it's just a bad film in every way. Like,
right.
It's bad to look at. If there was anything I could give this rope for, anything at all, I would rate it higher. But I have to go with like a 1 because it's hard to imagine a movie worse than this.
Yeah,
it's just brain dead. Last 2.5 hours, it looks terrible.
Like, how can it be worse, Bob? It's 3 hours instead of 2.5. That's the only way I can think of it being worse.
Like, the only thing that can make it worse is if it was a totally different thing of a gross out movie, like literally offending me in that way.
Neo literally shit.
Yes, I don't want to have to leave the bottom of the scale for things that are literally deplorable.
Yeah, I don't think that's fair.
And Bob gives the movie a 1, and then someone on Twitter's like, "Are you saying the movie's racist?" And he's like, "What?" They're like, "You're saying it's as bad as Birth of a Nation?" You're like, "Wait, what?"
Thank you, Bob. Finally, some nuance on this podcast.
Right, like that's the thing. Like, I don't want to leave the bottom of the scale for literally awful things that should obviously not even be rated.
I'm gonna shit myself.
I can't believe Bob said The Matrix Resurrection is as bad as Mein Kampf. I can't believe this man is pro-Nazi propaganda. Clearly would give that a 2.
Big fan of Serbian film.
God. Okay, this is the part where I talk and give it a score.
Yeah.
It would really help if characters were given scenes.
Yes.
To
I
develop
like characters and scenes.
I love
Please, can I
characters
have just one?
and scenes. I love that a lot. It would be really neat if we got the actors to do some performances to flesh out their characters and some interactions. You know, you really like firmly establish what each person wants out of this and stuff like that. In the other Matrix films, everyone comes in at a different level, you know, between Trinity, Morpheus, Neo, Smith, and etc. And they communicate that, and you get an idea of clashing views on the way things are and different goals for what they want.
Even Cypher and Mouse have more character than anyone in this movie.
I know. Isn't that insane? Mouse clowns on everyone in the Matrix Resurrections. If the choreography was good, that would be nice. If the action was good, that would be nice. If it looked good on film, that would be nice. If the music was good, that would be nice. I came into this film expecting the music to be the most disappointing part, but really they're all firing at the same level.
If it didn't exist, it'd be nice.
If it went way up its own ass and stuck with some of the bit at the beginning, with Neil Patrick Harris being the psychologist, basically, and we developed more of that, and we didn't have to involve this giant clusterfuck of other things. If this movie wasn't so convoluted, that would be great. I'm going to give it a 1 because I can't fathom why I would ever recommend this to anyone ever for any reason. I seriously, I can't fathom. Like, I personally find nothing here for me.
It is a vacant lot.
And I don't mean as like a huge Matrix fan. I mean as a human who likes watching movies. Because this could have been a great movie and been ruinous to everything that already existed in the Matrix, right?
Oh, yeah.
They could have easily made that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I expected.
That would have been ideal.
Yeah, it would have been ideal if this was at least the Lords of Shadow and looked pretty. Mm-hmm. If we could have gotten at least that, where it's like, ooh, the environmental art looks good. But like, this isn't a Lords of Shadow even. It isn't that ruinous to what exists. It just has a bunch of dumb ideas. And it doesn't have any ideas for what to do on its own that are interesting. It's really more disappointing than I could have anticipated. But yeah, that's gonna do it. That's gonna do it.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, we got it. We got a nice 7 on here. That's pretty good. Really?
7 out of 40.
7 out of 40. Unfortunately, it lost out to a Scooby-Doo Courage special by 27 points.
That's
and Star Wars Episode 9 by 24 points.
That checks out, though.
Phil really saved it from being worse than Resident Evil Infinite Darkness and the Dragon's Dogma Netflix show.
It doesn't even get to like the levels. Like, I would have taken the Rise of Skywalker Matrix.
Yeah, that would be so much better.
That would have been so cool.
I mean, to be frank, the second and third films are kind of that, where they're like vampires and werewolves and all this shit. And Neo's blowing up Sentinels in the real world, and it's like, oh, this rules.
Yeah, I want a line as good as that would be just like, somehow Anderson has returned.
Yeah, no, that would be funny. I absolutely would have preferred a Rise of Skywalker over this, which is funny as shit. Because in no world do I head into a thing going, boy, I hope this is as good as Rise of Skywalker.
Right? Never does that tend to happen unless you're in the muck.
God. I really want to know what the budget for this movie was.
It's probably the cheapest Matrix film. I can't imagine it not being.
It's probably way higher than it looks, though. That's what concerns me. I bet this is actually a lot of money going to make something that looks terrible.
That wouldn't be the first time a movie's done that.
Yeah.
Man. Anyways, thank you for listening to the Spoilercast and review. Stuff like this is always fun, so thank you for your support. If you want to support us more, you can head on over to patreon.com/GBPodcasts. The executive producers for this month of GigaBoots are Esme, E. Lee Broyles, Star Falcon, Spaceman Spiff, Red Blaze 27, Brendan O'Sullivan, Live Action Muito Real, Completely Normal Adam, Cooper Tank, Zilter, and Virvarm. Thank you very much to our executive producers and also these patrons. If you want to become an executive producer for an obscure but powerful YouTube channel, head on over to patreon.com/gigaboots today.